While we're waiting for a few more folks to show up, actually, we had the largest number of people ever to sign up in advance for today's webinar. So I guess the subject matter mattered. Let's do a little fun housekeeping while we're waiting for a few more people to come. Number one, last time we did a webinar on emailing, which you can still get if you'd like a copy, if you'd like to go look at the webinar that we did on emailing to your client list. That is available. If you can't find it easily, just send a quick email. You can see up there, randykirk77@gmail.com. You can get to me, or you can call. During the course of the week, I read an article talking about the big corporations and their emailing habits to their customer list. And it was intriguing to see that the major corporations, major retailers, are emailing sometimes as frequently as 35 to 40 times a month to their list. So you may or may not be concerned about how many times you're emailing. They don't seem to be terribly concerned. I would say at least twice a month for a bike shop. You could probably go 4 times a month without being terribly intrusive into your client's life. And in fact, if you have events and things going, I would say you could go 8, 9, 10 times a month. So that was interesting to me to see that there was that many emails sometimes going out from some of the retailers. Another thing I'd like to do while we're waiting here is, could you check out this list over here on the, I don't know if it's your right or your left. For me, it's my left. That's a list of possible webinars. We've now done about 5 of these, and I had a couple lined up. One of the ones I had lined up was, you see it down there on the list, Facebook and LinkedIn and Google+. Now Pinterest. I don't know if you're following the huge success of the new online social media called Pinterest, but we could do a webinar on that on Facebook, LinkedIn, Google+, and Pinterest. Another one that we have lined up, which is still, we haven't done, is the mobile websites and mobile apps. Certainly an important category, an important area, but not 100% sure how many people were interested in that. One might be website design. And website design and also SEO if you're not on smart e-tailing. So about 25% of bicycle retailers are on smart e-tailing. That leaves 75% that are doing their websites on their own. What should be the characteristics of the website design in order to maximize the number of people that come there and maximize the number of people who actually do some business? Pick up the phone and call you, or do something else that results in sales. How about this one? How to make $100,000 a year with an $800,000 bike shop? That would be maybe kind of a fun one. Customer service drives profit. There's a direct correlation between the quality of your customer service and the profit of your shop. So how about that for a webinar? Working on your shop instead of working in your shop. Differentiation between how much time you're spending considering and contemplating and looking toward the future of your shop and doing some planning, doing some analysis, analytics, whatnot, to make some decisions about the future, and even your daily opportunities, as opposed to just taking stuff as it comes, as it's thrown at you, and responding. And then possibly an open forum. And as I mentioned, open forum, it brings to mind today, please don't hesitate to put your questions up. So if you've got questions, throw them up there. Ashley will keep track. She'll let me know if we've got questions, and we'll be happy to answer those questions. But how about an open forum? We would actually have live mics, have everybody comment, bring their own questions, a lot of questions ahead of time possibly, and we could discuss the issues that are most important to you. So what you could do right now is you could either look up at the list and say, yeah, I'd love to see one on website design. Or I'd love to see one on how to make $100,000 a year with an $800,000 shop. You could put that into your chat information right now so Ashley can pick it up. You can email it to me later. I will send out an email later this week that will ask those same questions. Or maybe you've got a topic idea. Maybe you've got something that you'd really like to have me spend an hour on or close to an hour on sometime. Anyway, that's a little bookkeeping there. We will have a webinar in 2 weeks. Not 100% sure what the subject will be. I'm leaning towards how to make $100,000 a year with an $800,000 shop, but that doesn't necessarily have to be what it will be if the vote is heavily influencing my decision for next time. I'm sorry that we're getting a little flicker. I'm not sure where that flicker is coming in. Let me also mention we're doing this time live with a talking head. We have a green screen behind me, just to let you know that you could do the same thing. You could be setting up webinars that you would be putting together for your local and even national potential audience to come and hear you talk, or hear, it could be a webinar with just yourself, or it could be an interview. It doesn't have to be your face. Generally speaking, I try to avoid having my face be the subject matter, but this time there's just not a lot to put up other than my face, so you're gonna have to deal with that. But you can do this quite easily. The green screen I have behind me is so that if I want to cut this video up later, we're videotaping this as we do it. If I want to cut it up later, edit it, and create some great background for potential YouTube videos, I can do that in the future. A green screen is like $100, $150. You can buy them online all day long, very inexpensive. We're doing this on a laptop. Most of you have laptops that can do this. You can also do it with your iPad or your iPod, or I'm sorry, your iPhone, or even with some of those stuff from the other kind, the Galaxy type stuff. Anyway, that's enough of all that. We're eating into the hour here that we have to spend together. So let's talk about how to hire, how to build up your sales department, how to motivate them, and how to get a great sales team together so that you're going to maximize the opportunity you have on your store floor. If you've read my book, you'll recognize the next thing I'm going to say, because I say it over and over and over in the book. All marketing decisions should start with, what is it that I want to accomplish with this next marketing decision I'm making? Not every one of you is going to hire your sales staff with the same marketing intentions behind that hiring decision. So what would be some of the things that you might take into consideration? Well, for instance, is this to replace somebody that has quit? Is this a new hire at the beginning of the season that you typically make when the season starts? You want to have an extra body in there for selling? Is this because somebody that you have now is not successful at selling, and you want to get them into service, turning a wrench where they might be more successful as opposed to out on the floor? Is this to replace you, or is this just to generate more sales? Are you just trying to add to your selling department? How you answer those questions may have a lot to do with the kind of person that you're intending to hire, the quickness with which you need to hire, and the process that you take. But ask yourself those questions. Once you know the answers to those questions, the next step would be, how am I going to judge the results? What is going to be the determination? How much, for instance, how many dollars a day does this new salesperson have to do to justify themselves? How am I going to track that? How am I going to measure? When will I make the decision that the person isn't working out, so that I can quickly decide to move on to another solution as opposed to that person? These are all kinds of things you should think of ahead of time, as opposed to later, after you've made the hire and now you're flummoxed. You're not sure what to do. You've got this person on the payroll. You like them. They're nice people. They're not generating enough business. They're not doing what you hope they could do. You would have a strategy in mind for how to quickly make a decision with regard to what to do next. So planning in this area is just as critical as any other area. Now let's be real here. I've been calling on bike shops for 40 years. I started the business in 1971 as a retailer. And by 1972, I was out of retail and calling on folks like you, which I've now done for 40 years. I've watched the hiring decision being made for that 40 years. And quite frankly, let's be honest, most of the time, maybe not you, but most folks in retail, small retail enterprises, make the hiring decision kind of ad hoc. Oh my gosh, we just don't have enough people on the floor. I need to hire somebody. Who do I know that can come in here and handle it? Gosh, this person just quit. What am I going to do? I need to hire. You're making the decision ad hoc. You're not making the decision in advance, and you're probably making the decision, I think this is the way I've heard people say it. I'll hire anybody that walks in the door that knows what a bicycle is, or I'll hire any great wrench who might have a good personality. Or worse, maybe I'll hire anybody that can turn a wrench, even if they don't have a good personality. I can tell you that in the last 4 years as a marketing consultant, with anywhere from 5 to 10, 15, 20 bike shops that I'm consulting with, I have seen having a great sales department matters so much. We tend to be thinking that it's all about the internet today. I've found that store signage can have as great an impact as the internet does. We tend to think about how important it is to have Google Places or Facebook or all the rest. I'm finding that if you have all of that and folks are walking in the door, but your salesmen are not converting those people into sales, into bikes out the door, then all the great internet, all the great store signage, all the great local advertising you're doing is not going to be as effective as if you could put some really talented people on the floor. And I've just seen it over and over again, where talented salespeople has made all the difference in the sales and the profit of the shop. Okay, so what are the steps to this? All right, you've made the decision, you do need to hire, or you're planning to hire in the future and you want to start really working on it now. What are the steps? The first element that goes into the hire is knowing the kind of person you want. Now, in the bicycle retail business, we tend to be a little bit oriented towards 17 to 25, probably 75% male, and we tend to be looking for somebody that can turn a wrench. We're probably looking for somebody with junior college or only a high school diploma. Maybe they're still in high school. But the reality is the folks that we've typically looked at may not be the most talented types for selling. So you may want to move up your criteria just a little bit. Maybe you're looking really for a 22 to 35-year-old. Maybe it doesn't matter whether they're guys or gals. We certainly want people that are intrigued by the bicycle industry. Maybe they're not big riders, but they like the industry and they're interested enough to become more actively involved in the industry. And we want people that like to sell. No, we're not looking for people that just love to talk. We're not looking for people that have great personalities and that they're wild and crazy. No, we're looking for people that like to sell, that actually enjoy the process, and that understand that real selling is need filling, not forcing a product down somebody's throat, not trying to convince somebody to get something they don't want, but rather truly listening, understanding the heart, empathizing with the individual, and then providing something that fits the criteria that they're looking for, that fills their need. Now, that type of salesperson is going to be more empathetic. They probably do have a gift for gab, but maybe they're not somebody that just loves to talk all the time. I wouldn't be talking about anybody here. Anyway, but rather somebody that enjoys the competition of selling. Maybe they've been heavily involved in sports in addition to bicycle. Maybe they've been, on volleyball teams, baseball teams, football, whatever, tend to be competitive, love the opportunity to be successful and to sell. I had one individual tell me years ago, find people that complete the task. So are the people that you're talking to, is there a way to ask them the question, you started junior college, do you plan to quit? If you come to work for me, are you going to continue and finish junior college? Look at the job history. Did they tend to quit? Why did they quit? Are they quitters? Or are they people that are looking to finish the task? Maybe they left that opportunity in order to seek better opportunities. That would potentially be somebody you'd be excited about. But are they quitters? Or are they people who like to complete the task? So these may be some of the criteria you would look at. But decide what it is that you'd like to have. What is somebody that can fill the void in your shop? What's somebody that's going to make a difference in your store? Once you know the kind of person you want, the next thing you got to do is decide where you're going to find these folks. Now, I've hired hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people over my career. Most of you know that I used to be the co-owner of AC International. We had about 100 plus employees. and turnover of about 20% a year. So we were hiring 20, 30, 40 people a year. I always hated that part. I'm just being honest again. I never really liked the hiring process. I sometimes would go through this massive formula approach where you look for 100 resumes by advertising all these different places. You get all the resumes in, you go through the resumes, you sort them out, you bring people in for one meeting, then you bring them in for another meeting. Maybe they meet a couple of other people in the organization so you can get their feedback and find out what they think about this person. I did that. I did that on many occasions, especially for higher echelon hires, especially like salespeople, sales managers. You know what? The success of that kind of a hire didn't seem to be a lot higher than throwing a dart at the wall. so I'm not going to sit here and tell you that the smartest way to hire is to go through that whole process. And it's very time consuming. It's very expensive. And then when it doesn't work, you're back at square one. The coolest thing about taking in hundreds of resumes and talking to a lot of people on the phone is you tend to then have a reservoir to go back to. And sometimes I would go back to that reservoir and I would find some talent for another position. Here's my recommendations after hundreds and hundreds of hires. Number one, look into your existing group of individuals who are available and that you know about. Maybe you don't know about them personally. Maybe somebody your staff knows about. I have to take a brief break to plug in my computer. I'm going to run out of battery. I'm very sorry about this. Technical issues. Okay. So look into the reservoir of people that your staff knows, that your family members know, that you know. Ask the industry. You've got salespeople coming in. You can ask salespeople if they know anybody that's out there that's looking for a new opportunity. It's not a good idea to steal from your competitors, but it happens. And I'm not suggesting you go out and deliberately try to steal from your competitors, but if you hear that there's somebody out there that's unhappy, there's nothing wrong with interviewing them and seeing about whether they want to move over to your side. So my first choice was always to get input from people within the organization and outsiders who I trusted. That method always was the best for me. The number two method that I came to after years and years and years of this was to go to the temp to hire approach. Every city has at least one or two or three temp agencies, maybe 5 or 6 or 7. And all of these temp agencies have different approaches. But there are many of them in the category that you're talking about that won't require you to pay them the overage for more than 90 days. That's a negotiated issue. Sometimes they'll tell you that you need to have it for 6 months or a year. It's negotiable. When you talk to the temp agency, you say, look, I'm only willing to pay for 90 days. But I need you to send me quality people. And I'm going to make a decision within that 90-day period. And then if they work out, great. If they don't, then I'm going to fire them. The cool thing about temp to hire is you can let somebody go in 4 hours and you don't feel nearly as bad as if you've gone through a hiring process. So you bring them in and you start training them from day one. Boom. You don't even have to necessarily have a big interview process. You bring them in, you put them on the floor, you get somebody to train them. Maybe it's you're training them. But right away, you can start to see how they operate and whether or not you think they're worth investing a lot of money in. It worked beautifully for me at almost every level of hire that I was doing. But certainly at the lower level hires, people under today, anything under $15, $16 an hour, that was a really good way to find quality people. The next level up would be, of course, to put out the ads, Craigslist, and all the rest of the methods. I'm not going to be able to teach you anything about that you don't already know. But in that case, if you are bringing people in for interviews, the interview becomes the very first step in the training process. So a lot of people look at the interview as some amorphous thing that they do, and then later on, they make a hire. If you really want to get solid individuals in your organization, start with the interview being part of the training. In that interview process, you're going to talk about the mission statement of the organization. You're going to talk about the philosophies of the business. You're going to talk about a little history of the business. And you're going to let them really know what's expected. I would lay out stuff to make it seem harder than it was, or make it at least as hard as it was going to be. I wanted people to say, I'm not willing to do that. Let them know up front, because you want somebody who's going to be willing to really do the hard stuff. So the hiring interview process could be something that's going to set that individual up for success if they do come to work for you. The only other thing I'm going to tell you about the interview process is don't sell the person on coming to work for you. That's a real tendency on my part. I know with a lot of people that I consult with, it's a tendency on their part. You're talking about a salesperson you're trying to hire here. But even if it wasn't, let them sell you on them. They should be the ones doing the selling. You shouldn't be selling them. Oh, this is such a great place to work, and you should come here tomorrow. All of a sudden you're setting yourself up for them to feel like they're really super critical and that they've got you in a place where you need them more than they need you. This is not a good place to be when they walk in the door to begin training. So make sure that you see the beginning the beginning effort here as not only just an interview, but also the beginning of the training, and also that you don't sell them, you let them sell you. Those would be the two biggest things I would like to recommend with regard to that process. Ashley, just real quick, do we have any questions out there?
No, we don't.
Okay, remember everybody, don't hesitate. You can just write your questions in the spot where it says you can do that. Obviously, you can email questions to me for afterwards if you don't want to ask the questions right now live. But we'd love to know what it is. If there's anything we're talking about that you don't agree with, or that you just want to ask something about what we're talking about, go ahead and put those questions up there. Okay, you've now, the next question that almost all of you generally would want to know is, well, how much should I pay? How much should I be paying for somebody in the sales area for a bike shop? And this is something I have I think a fairly unique approach. So I'm going to share my unique approach. You may choose to use it, you may not choose to use it, but it worked for me very well with salespeople. And that is, you ask the individual whether they want more or less risk associated with their paycheck. Remember, these are salespeople. Good salespeople tend to be risk takers. Not all of them, but most salespeople are risk takers. They're kind of entrepreneurs who haven't yet decided to take the full-on risk of doing it 100% themselves. So how can you help them make a risk assessment? Well, give them some options. Maybe they're going to start at minimum wage with a very high commission potential. Maybe they're not risk. Maybe they don't like a lot of risk. So they'd rather start with a little higher income, $10, $11, $12 an hour, with a much lower commission involved. Maybe there's some combination. Maybe the underlying amount is a guarantee. So you're going to be guaranteeing them so much a month or so much a week or however you want to do it. But they have the opportunity to override that by hitting certain numbers. They hit certain numbers, they get a bonus. So there's lots of ways to put that kind of a package together, depending on whether the person is more or less open to risk. My inclination was probably, if I'm interviewing people and I'm interviewing 5 salesmen or salespeople, and one of them is very risk oriented and 4 of them are not, that's going to count in their favor. If it's kind of even, if everything else is, I got somebody that looks like a great potential salesperson, very empathetic, has a lot of history with selling, so they meet a lot of other great criteria, and they're not very risk, what we call risk perverse, enjoy risk. If they don't want to take on too much risk, that's not going to necessarily disqualify them. Maybe they've had a lot of sales opportunities or sales jobs in the past where the risk thing, where they felt bad about the way that it was managed by the owners or the managers, and they didn't feel like they got the full potential and now they've been soured on taking that higher risk potential. So take into consideration all these things. That's my method. If you're not going to do that, if you just want to pay them a straight wage, I'm thinking today, depending on the city, depending on the part of the country, you got to be paying at least $10 to $12 an hour for top salespeople, and you probably need to be thinking in terms of the higher end of that. Now, by the time you pay the overhead, that individual is going to be up around $13.50, $14, $15 an hour. That's certainly affordable. And then if they're any good, I would be prepared to move them up from those numbers in order to keep them. So that's a rough idea. Maybe you have some other ideas. Don't hesitate to throw it up on the question board and say, gosh, I'm paying $20 an hour and I can't get good people. Or maybe, gosh, I've got wonderful people and I'm paying $8.50. It does depend on the area. It does depend on the age of the individuals that you're hiring, and it does depend on what you're really hoping to get out of these people. I can tell you that I have individuals that I know of in the bicycle industry today who are paying people $20 an hour, and they are providing so much more profit for that $20 an hour than other individuals who might be at $8, $9, or $10 an hour. So it is not necessarily true that you're going to make more money off a decent salesman at 10 than you will off a great salesman at 20. All right, so that's a little bit about the hiring process, about the interview process, about where to find folks, and how much to pay, about maybe how to conduct the interview in terms of their pace, the approach to the pay. Now they've come to join you, you're going to start training them. The training method that I've always liked is, with salespeople, is throw them out there right away with another salesperson where they can follow for several days. Sure, you're going to want to do some floor stocking. You're going to want them to do some dirty work so they can learn about stuff. You're going to want them to ring the cash register for a while so they can start to understand the pricing. You're going to want them to do some of those taskings, but I'm going to want them following some other salesperson as quickly as possible. And of course, who I want them to follow is the very best salesperson you have. That might be you. It might be somebody else that works for you. So get them out there following right away so that they can start to pick up the pattern. They can start to pick up the keywords. They can start to pick up the methodology. Get them out there quickly to watch for a while. Once they begin to feel comfortable and confident that they think they can handle it, then let them start to do some pitching with that same individual, that same top salesperson, watching them. A key to this part of the training is that salesperson should not be, the top salesperson, the manager, should not be jumping into the conversation. The sales manager in this role needs to let this individual make their mistakes. It's really hard because you're seeing them make a mistake and you're afraid you're going to lose the sale, you're going to lose the profit. But if they are not allowed to make the mistakes, they're never going to learn. The time to talk to them about the mistake, the time to help them with that situation is afterwards. And you can say, okay, do you see what happened here? Help me you show me, what do you think went wrong at this place? What do you think you could do better next time in order to smooth over that part of the presentation? So try to stay out of their way and let them do it with oversight. And then, you might lose a sale. You might lose a couple of sales. You're just going to have to deal with that situation and recognize that for the long-term benefit of the employee and the company, that's the best way to do it. Now, the other thing you want them to do while they're in this process is read. I know, so 20th century. And I'm still writing books. I don't know. My books are not even they're not even in e-form yet. So I got it. Ashley, you need to bug me. You need to push me to make sure that we get an e-version of Principles of Bicycle Retailing for the Internet Age out there. But at the end of the day, whether it's something that they're going to read on their iPhone or their iPad or their Amazon product, it doesn't matter how they're going to read it. You need them to read, and or attend seminars or webinars, and or listen to tapes in their car. Some of the best books on selling over the years are by Zig Ziglar. I would start with Zig Ziglar. There's books like How to Get. I'm sorry. I'm forgetting the names of these books. I'll come back to it in a second. But there's a bunch of books out there on how to sell. But my seminars are specifically for the bicycle industry. I'm not bragging or complaining. I've been giving them for 35 years. People have come back to the seminars over and over again. Highly recommend those. They're all on the portal at bikeshopowner.com. So your salespeople can go in there, watch those seminars over and over again on enthusiasm, on how to find the need, how to fill it, how to close, how to add on, etc. So this is a very critical part of the training. Is not just what you or your sales manager or the top salesman in the shop are teaching them, not just what they're learning on the floor. They need to improve their sales techniques and abilities by reading, by listening to tapes, by watching seminars. This is just, in my opinion, critical. I didn't pay my salespeople for that time. I said, here's 5 books I want you to read. Here's 2 seminars I want you to watch, and do it on your own time. You may do that differently. You may be perfectly happy to pay them for that time. I felt that was something that they were going to do to improve themselves, as if they were going to junior college or college. It's going to be something that's going to help them for their whole life. And all of my salespeople were perfectly happy to read those books. So training internally, training externally, get out of their way, let them take some risks on the floor, let them fail, and then track. What's going on? How are they doing? Well, that brings us to the whole next part of this. Because now maybe you're not here, maybe you're not watching the webinar today in order to learn how to hire. Maybe you're here to learn how to motivate the ones you already got working for you. And what you really want to do is increase the number of bikes that are being sold compared to the number of people walking in the door, the number of items that are sold after the sale, which is critical to your business. I've got a whole webinar up on that. I didn't even do that one. I had an outsider produce that one up at bikeshopowner.com. If you're only selling the national average of 1.2 items per sale with the bike out the door, you're losing. You're just leaving money on the floor that you should have been able to get. Should be 3 to 5 minimum items that are going out the door with every bike. I'd like to see 5 to 10. I'm sure that if it was really zeroed in on your shop, you could get 5 to 10 items out the store with every bike, or on average. So how does that train? How is that motivated? Okay, that's where we're going to go from here. And I believe that starts with tracking. I mentioned earlier that the kind of people that you'd like to hire are competitive people, people that enjoy competitive sports, people that like to ride. And I know that the people that are competitive track their results. My son's a baseball player. He's year-round baseball. And the other day, he's learning more about math as a result of playing baseball than he is from being in whatever he's in now, geometry. Because he wanted to know what his on-base percentage was, and what his slugging percentage was, and what his batting average was. And, he wanted to know so that he could be clear that he was improving and getting better at what he's doing. He also wants to know what his base speeds are. So he's competitive, and he wants to know those things so he can improve and get better. Well, your people, the people that you're having in your shop as salespeople, should be in that same boat. By the way, this goes for service too. You need tracking. You need something up on the wall where the salespeople are keeping track of the number of people that they're dealing with. Okay, these are, my favorite is, how many people did they deal with today that were in the shop looking to buy a bicycle? So prospect. Okay, prospect for a bicycle. I'm not going to keep track of prospects for inner tubes and helmets. I want to prospect a hash mark each time somebody walks out of the store, having either purchased or not purchased a bike, but they were in to buy a bike. So 1 hash mark for that prospect. Now, if they sold them a bicycle, up goes a hash mark in the sold category, and that's by the day. So at the end of the day, if the salesperson has had 10 prospects and they've sold 5 bikes, they can see that this is a 50% closing ratio. If they've had 10 prospects and they sold 2, that's a 20% closing ratio. Or if they've had 10 folks in the store and they sold 9 or 10, there's a 90 or 100% closing ratio. By keeping those numbers, the individuals in your business will self-motivate. They will self-motivate for at least 2 or 3 different reasons. Number one, because that's the nature of the beast, is you're wanting to beat your old numbers. You're seeing you're only doing 40% or 30%, and you're not satisfied with that. You want to improve it. How do I improve it? What do I do to do better? Number two is peer pressure. So these are public records. Everybody can see. So you get somebody else up on the wall and they're doing 70% and I'm only doing 30%. There's going to be peer pressure on me to do better. I'm not going to like the fact that this other guy is doing so much better than me, or gal. Then the other reason is pressure from ownership. So whether or not you're making a big deal about it or not, they're assuming that you're paying attention, and you probably should be, and I hope you are. So they're assuming that the owner is going to be looking at this, and if somebody's doing 80 and somebody's doing 20, the person that's doing 20, their job's on the line. If I'm that 20% person, I'm going to want to go to the 80% person, and what are you doing differently? Or maybe I'm going to go to the owner and say, why do you think I'm only closing 20%? So there becomes a tremendous amount of pressure from 3 different directions with regard to posting these numbers. So I can't encourage you enough. Now, if you want to make it even more fun, add another column. And the other column would be how many dollars of after sale I did with that bike purchase. So add that dollar amount into that category. It could be numbers or dollars, I don't care. I sold them 3 additional items. I sold them 5 additional, maybe do both. So 5 additional items for $75. But adding that other column is just going to make it that much more interesting, that much more motivating, and that much better for you in terms of tracking performance of your people. You can certainly track performance based on computer results. Hopefully you've got your sales figures are coming in by salesperson, so you can see who's selling the most bikes. You can see who's selling the most in the after sale. And certainly those are useful too, but nothing is as successful as putting that chart up on the wall. If you read my book, you'll see a whole section. Of course, when I owned AC International, we manufactured about 5.5 million water bottles a year. And we wanted our manufacturing people to produce a lot of water bottles. We wanted them to be high quality. We wanted them to print a lot of water bottles. And we wanted the printing to be unbelievably high quality. That was our mantra. Well, all that was tracked. And it was all tracked publicly. So people knew how they were doing against their peers. And they knew that I knew. So this is just something that works really, really well. I can't recommend it enough. What do you suppose? Actually, I'm going to stop for 2 seconds. Any questions out there?
No questions still.
Still no questions. Come on, folks. This is your chance to ask a question if you need to. We're coming down to the last 20 minutes here, so get those questions up on the board. All right. What do you suppose is the number one motivator of people within your organization? Dun, 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 dun. Come on now. Anybody want to throw it up there? You can put it in the chat. You can put it in the questions. What motivates people? I'll give you a multiple choice.
Money. Somebody said.
Money. Somebody put one up?
Yeah, somebody put money.
Somebody put money. So you think money's the number one motivator. Does anybody out there think that it might be bonus money? How many of you out there think it might be trophies and prizes, trips, things like that?
Somebody put pat on the back.
Who put what?
Pat on the back.
A pat on the back. This person just won the prize.
And then
they read my book, but they already knew you won the prize. Nothing motivates like people believing that you are appreciative of their performance, that you think they're doing a great job, that you like them personally, that you want them to succeed, that you're in their corner, that you are just thrilled to have them as part of your organization and that you are willing to do whatever it takes to get them to success. So are you doing that? Are you the person who goes out and throws a big arm around your shoulder and says, man, that was a great sale, or boy, what a great day you had today, or I'm just so thankful to have you on the team? Do they know that? Do they have a real clear understanding that that's your position with regard to them? Not only does that help them in terms of motivation, it helps them in terms of staying on board. They're going to be way more likely to stay on board if they feel appreciated and respected than they are if they think they're just a cog in the wheel, or if they feel that you're not happy with them, or you feel that they're not meeting your expectations, then they're going to be like, oh my gosh, I better start looking for a job now. Okay, so what do you think the number one demotivating factor is for salespeople? Tick, 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 tick. Anybody out there got the demotivating? What's going to demotivate people the fastest?
Let's see.
How about
being ignored?
Negative talk.
Somebody said
being ignored. What else?
Fear and no feedback.
Fear and no feedback. Those are really, really good ones. Fear, no feedback, being ignored, being treated like a cog in the wheel, or negative feedback. Those are really good ones. The number one negative for salespeople is lack of support, or even worse, not keeping promises. Oh my word, the not keeping promises thing is a killer. If you've promised that you're going to have great inventory next year and you don't have great inventory, if you've promised that you're going to give them a raise or a bonus or you put it on a contest and you don't do it, if you've promised them that that everybody's going to go to Interbike this year, or that everybody that does a certain amount of production is going to go to Interbike and you don't do it, if you've promised sales training materials or bringing in an outside sales training person, if you've promised that you're going to do more advertising so you can get more people in the store, get the traffic up, and you don't do it. You don't even do the advertising, or the advertising fails and the traffic still stinks. Anything like that you promise and you don't deliver, hugely demotivating for salespeople. Salespeople tend to be believers. Really good salespeople want to believe. And when you let them down, when you don't come through in the way that you promised, it's a huge demotivator. So be careful before you promise. It doesn't mean that you should do everything that I just listed, which you should. Obviously, you want to get the traffic up. Obviously, you want to give them plenty of promotional materials to work with. Obviously, you want to give them training. Obviously, you want to give them positive vibes. You want to give them contests. You want to do all those things. The key thing is don't offer it unless you're going to follow through. That's what my key thing is. Now let's talk about a couple of the other ones that were brought up. Negative talk. Oh my gosh. I had a salesman, one of the best ever. Some of you, if anybody's listening today was in Southern California market, Orange County market, Phoenix market, 35 years ago, when I owned Atlas Lock Company, you may even remember Mickey. Mickey was a great salesman, great burly big guy, couldn't have been a nicer kid, loved product, loved selling, loved his clients because his customers loved him. If he got one no in the morning, I would only be able to find him by calling coffee shops or donut shops. He just couldn't take the no. And yes, salesmen tend to be like that. So if you're the one that's providing the no, if you're going out there and saying, well, you really screwed that one up, or boy, I just can't imagine how you blew that. Those kind of demotivating comments are really hard on salespeople. They're hard on everybody, but they're really hard on salespeople, and you're going to end up putting a person in a funk. You can also help them if they did have a hard no. They were working on a $1,500 bike or $2,500 bike or even an $800 bike, and it got away from them. Don't go out and harp on them or criticize them. Go out there and say, hey, what happened on that one? Let's talk about it. And salesmen always love to do the little post-sale chat to kind of see what they did right and what they did wrong, as long as they feel like they can express themselves openly and honestly and not be shot down. So that's critical. Respect, respect, respect. Any questions about that category? It's a big one in terms of how to motivate. We're not talking about money here. We're not talking about prizes here. We're talking about just motivating through respect, being trustworthy, and being positive, pats on the back, being in the corner. Any thoughts or questions about that before we move on to the rest of the motivation section?
Not necessarily on that, but someone has a question that on the commission system, when a number of people work with a customer on a sale, who gets the credit?
Well, that's a really hard one. It's probably going to be very much based on what you want to do in the particular company that you have. Um, there are times, let's say it's if a junior salesman and a senior salesman, and a lot of times it's a great thing to give the junior salesman the commission, especially if they did a lot of work on it. Maybe you want to double it. Go ahead and give the senior person a commission also. Split commissions are great, and there's no reason not to use split commissions if the second salesman was necessary to finish the deal. The first salesman recognized that they really needed that other person. Maybe they invited them in to finish the deal. Or it can be if you're doing rotations. If you have a lot of traffic and you're doing rotations, to where each new person that walks in the door, the next person up gets that potential client, then clearly, usually the money's going to stick with the person that was in rotation. But again, I think that's a house rule thing. It's like, should twos be wild or one-eyed jacks? It's a house rules. Okay, let's talk about other ways to motivate. I really, I'm sorry, go ahead.
We have a couple more questions, actually.
Oh, go ahead, sure.
What's the best way to get product training done by salespeople?
Give your salespeople a category that they're going to be the expert in. Then have them work with the outside salesperson that comes in to call on you with regard to that product category. If you don't have a regular outside person, let's say it's a rep from J&B or Trek or whatever, and the salesperson is not necessarily an expert in that category, then maybe you call the factory and see if there's going to be an expert out there that could come in and talk to you. Today, there's tons of material online. YouTube videos. I'm a big YouTube fan. Well, the reason I'm a big YouTube fan is because I'm always using YouTubes to train myself. So if there's a category that somebody's going to become the expert in, have them go online and learn all they can. Now, when you have sales meetings at your company, have your experts, maybe one every time you have a sales meeting, maybe 2 or 3 every time you have a sales meeting, have your experts be prepared to present to the rest of the group. Nobody in at least over a year or 2 is going to become an expert on everything. And even once you've been in the business for 10 or 15 years, you cannot maintain expertise about everything from nutrition to clothes to shoes to helmets to bikes and every bike brand and every bike style. So have experts divided up and then have them zero in and really become even more expert in the area and have them then train the others. Does that help? Another question.
That's actually it. The other one was just an answer.
Oh.
Yeah.
All right. So how are we going to increase sales with regards to other kind of motivators? Contests are great. I just love contests. And there's 3 basic kinds of contests. Number 1 is a contest that is totally based on sales numbers and everybody wins based on their success. So maybe it's every dollar. Maybe it's every dollar over a certain amount. So there's a certain amount per week that they need to hit before they start gaining the contest results. Maybe there's a certain amount per month before they start gaining. Maybe they have to hit a certain number and they automatically get whatever it is that is going to happen. But those are contests where everybody can win based on their own performance and there's no competition. Then there's the kind of contest where there's a competitive thing going on. So you're going to have a first, second, and third. Those are great because, again, the competition's fun. And so you're going to have a first prize, a second prize, and maybe no prize. We did, of course, the steak and beans contest where the loser rather, had to take the loser out to dinner. I'm sorry, the loser had to take the winner, buy him a steak, and the winner had to buy beans for the loser. Those are kind of fun. There's a lot of ways to do those kind of contests. And again, you can go online and find thousands and thousands of contest suggestions for sales teams. The third kind is very personalized. And this was, I had great success with this kind of contest. And this is where you actually sit down with the guy and with the gal, and you say, okay, what do you think you can do this month? Oh, I think I can do, 30,000 in bike sales this month. Okay, you can do 30,000. So what do you think that's worth? What if you only do 20? Should there be some kind of should you still make a bonus at 20 or should you only make a bonus? Sculpt the contest around their own expectations, their own plan, their own thinking, and then make it realistic for each person based on the profit that's going to come out of it. So if some person says, I'm only going to sell $10,000 in bikes for the month, then the prize that they're going to get for exceeding that is not going to be as great a prize as the person who says they can do 30 and they exceed that. But the personalized contest is really great. My all-time favorite, you may have read it in the book. I had 3 salespeople at this particular time. I called all 3 of their wives. They happened to all be men at that time. And I called all 3 of their wives, and I made them an offer of a prize that their husband could win. It would either be a microwave oven, this is a long time ago, a microwave oven, a VCR, I think, of some kind. Maybe it was a camera. And I can't remember what the third thing was, but it was some other cool thing for the house. Then each of the wives chose. They decided which prize it was that they would hope that their husband would win. I then called the salesman in and told them what the scoop was and sent out a letter to each of the wives saying, if your husband hits this sales number this month, they're going to win the prize. Would it be shocking to you that all 3 of those guys exceeded their numbers easily? Because they had the best sales manager that they could possibly have, making sure they hit those numbers. It was a great, great contest, very, very successful. And the other kind of contest is one that's purely based on recognition, where there's no dollar prize, there's no trip prize, there's no stake, and it's purely based on recognition. So that would be the employee of the month, the salesman of the month. You believe it or not, the least expensive method that I ever used for that was the best, and that was a traveling trophy. All the employees voted on who was the employee of the month. So it was something that they all voted, and not me. I didn't have a vote. The employees voted, they decided. Then we would go down to the trophy shop, and we would have a plaque made for that month, and we would add that plaque to the trophy. There was room there for like 12 of them for a full year. And then that would be added, and then that person got to take the trophy home for the month. And then we'd have a new winner the next month, then we'd add another plaque, and that person could take the trophy home for the month. That was extremely successful. And then at the end of the year, you could have the person with the most wins could take the trophy home permanently, or you can leave that in the shop. Another great thing is to have some kind of signage in the store that says employee of the month is. You've seen that, I'm sure, lots of times. I've even seen shops that have used changeable neon signs for their employee of the month because they really wanted to push the idea home. I've seen companies that have put the employee of the month on their exterior neon sign and changed that up. So there's a lot of ways to do those kind of contests and competitions. They're very, very effective in terms of motivating salespeople. So the good news is that I've actually completed what I set out to do today with 6.5 minutes left, which gives you guys time for questions. Well, just before the questions. Well, go ahead and put the questions up while I'm talking. But just want to let you know that this will be recorded. It will be available. You'll be able to see this again later. I would love to have your input on the list over here of potential topics for next month, for 2 weeks from now, actually, and for next month, and for the one after that. Please give me some feedback on what we could do next. If you need to talk to me, if you would like to hire us as a consultant, that would always be nice. There's the phone number, there's the email. When you call that number, 310-910-1848, you will get me. There's no there's nobody in between me and you. It's a very personal relationship. If you need to buy the book, bikeshopowner.com is where you're going to go buy the book. But let me ask you right now, Ashley, any questions out there?
Yeah, we have one question. Somebody wants to know, how do you get the most out of doing things like buying lunch for employees?
Most out of things like buying lunch. Well, typically, if I was going to buy lunch, it was going to be because I had something I wanted to do. I wasn't going to. I mean, sure, it could be buying lunch because we had a great day, or a great week, or a great month. So that would be. I love surprise financial rewards. So walking up to somebody and giving them a 20, walking up to somebody and giving them a gift card to Starbucks. Excuse me. Any kind of a surprise thing like that is always great. Gee, you did such a great job. I just want you to have this. So the same thing can work with a lunch. But I would also say that the other great utilization of a lunch is maybe I want to give a 15-minute pep talk. Maybe I got something I really want to explain in detail. So I would have a lunch in order to be able to get their full attention for that 15 minutes. But I want it to be unique. I want it to be special. I don't know if that answered the question. I'm just hoping it did. Any other questions?
One more question. Somebody wants to know whether we charge hourly for our consulting services or what we do.
Okay, no, we're actually on a retainer, a monthly retainer. If you go on my website, googleplaceshelp.blogspot.com or helpforsmallbusiness.blogspot.com, you can see all about the way that we are set up to work with clients. My current rate is $845 per month, and that includes a massive amount of work. Huh, Ashley?
Yes.
We do a lot of work for you. We do a massive amount of work. But the $845 is for everybody else except the bicycle industry. So shh. We have a special rate for bicycle dealers that's less than that. Give me an email or a phone call after the webinar. I'll be happy to discuss what the discount is for bicycle dealers. And to be honest with you, the reason we can discount the bicycle world a little bit is because of our wide experience in the bicycle world. So some of it we've done so many times before, it doesn't cost us as much. I've had a phone call last year from a chimney sweep. I had to learn that from the ground up. I knew nothing about chimney sweeps, and it took me a tremendous amount of research in order to become well versed in that person's business. But when it comes to the bicycle industry, after 41 years in the industry, after writing 7 books for the industry, and after now 4 years of working as a consultant, a lot of the work has been done, and all we have to do is tailor it to your specific circumstance in your shop. So $845 is normal. Give me a call, and we'll talk about a number less than that. Anybody else? Any other questions?
Nope, that's it.
Well, if that's all the questions there are today,
or actually we do. We do.
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
Let's see. Somebody wants to know about grand openings and shop events, including that.
Yeah, well, great.
I'm not sure
as a possible topic.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Yes, grand openings and shop events. Great topic. I'm doing a grand opening for Bike Masters in Arizona right now. We're doing a 30th anniversary for a bakery right now. These things can be phenomenal in terms of generating new business, and especially in terms of generating emails for your email blasting. So I can't encourage you enough to do those kinds of things. And yes, we'll add that to the list as a potential item for a future webinar. Absolutely. Thank you very much for that idea. Anything else out there?
That's it.
If that is everybody and everything, then thank you for coming. And maybe some of you will be back next month. Oh, the remaining few of you out there, if you think of it, go ahead and go back to Meetup afterwards. They're going to ask you to rate this program. We'd love to hear what you thought, whether it was useful, whether you benefited, whether you think it'll make you some money, or whether you think I need to do the next one without my picture on the screen. It's been great having you all. Until next time.